baby, I miss you. This is the reality of a lot of Nigerians who have left the country, gone to other places in search of a better future, but left their loved ones, family, left them behind in search of that better future. It's been estimated by the National Library of Medicine in America that 1 out of every 3 Africa who has left their own country to different parts of the country abroad suffer from depression. And more specifically, 1 out of every 2 Nigerian who has gone to Canada, who has Japa to Canada, is suffering from depression, isolation, and loneliness. Now the question begs, if you find it very important to live regardless, or let's say you've left already and you've already found yourself somewhere in Canada abroad, how do you navigate through the issue of loneliness, depression, and all of those things? Because at the end of the day, you'd realize that Nigerians are extremely sociable beings. This means that we love to socialize, we love family support, we love to depend on close family support group systems. So if you must leave, how do you navigate through the loneliness, through the depression and all of these things to find your way to greater heights? Stay with me for the next couple of minutes while I walk you through this. Thank you. Hello, my name is Victor Akan, and I would like to welcome you to my Breath of Hope podcast. You see, for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a series on Japa, how to navigate, your life through Japa. And the truth of the matter is that if you've found yourself in this channel by hook, by crook, by one means or the other, trust me, we do way more than this. We do the Japa, but we do way more than this. We cover topics regarding mental health, addiction recovery. We do a whole lot of things that brings about your healing, your freedom, and your inspiration for life and development. And so if this sounds like something that is exciting to you, then I would just suggest that you just do us a favor and just subscribe to the Breath of Hope YouTube channel. Now, trust me, you don't want to pass out on this because you might never see this content again. And just subscribing and liking is a way through which YouTube knows that, hey, YouTube, I love the Breath of Hope. So YouTube says, you know what? I'm going to keep sending you more of their videos. And so if that sounds interesting to you, just subscribe. All right. Thank you. And so today we are going to be talking about dealing with loneliness, especially for those who have Japan. Okay, dealing with loneliness. And one of the first things I would like to make reference to is a simple fact, and it is this: Nigerians, though we are very sociable, we are not very big on mental health. And this is what this means. This means that the way we've learned to deal with issues is just carry it on your back, just walk with it, find a way to just rugged it in. But that is not, always a very healthy way, okay? Because that means that sometimes you're having feelings, but you're not processing these feelings the right way. And so it leads to other bad stuff like depression, for instance. So the question begs, of course, how do we navigate through some of these issues, some of these mental health issues, okay? But one very simple fact to note is that one way is by changing your mind, because it made sense when you're in a system whereby it's just about your survival, nobody really cares about your mental health. But when you're now in a system where mental health solution has been given at every possible level, then you must now open up your mind to reorient yourself on the best ways to find help, which is why, of course, you're watching this video. But first, let us answer the question. And the question is that, why is it that a lot of Nigerians always find themselves, or will most time find themselves, in the place where they are suffering from depression, they are lonely and all of these things? Why? Well, number one, it's completely normal because you've left your whole life. Some of you have left people that you love. You've left them. You came to a foreign land, strange land. Some of you have left not just people that you love, like your romantic relationships. Some of you have left your marriages. Some of you have left your close friends, and you're coming to a new place. And of course, it's going to be very difficult for you to, just adapt, just swing in. Why? Because you also have the place of cultural changes, right? Culture shock and all of these things. So Besides the fact that you're missing your people, which is natural, and you're a very sociable being, you believe so much in community support and all of these things, there is now a new part, and that is the fact that when you're coming to a new culture, something that is completely different from what you have always known all your life, you're always going to feel like an outsider. So there is just that other fact. Coupled with the fact that, Nigerians were big on community, especially when it comes to church going and some other things, we for some reason, we are always in some sort of informal support group, quote and unquote, that already helps us. And so the churches in Nigeria, for instance, you would find that they in a way offer support group systems, not in the traditional form of therapy, but in the sense that when you're in church, you actively build relationships, which might not always be the case abroad, where everybody just goes to church, worship their God, mind their business. Okay, and so there's also that part that besides the fact that you're leaving people at home, you're getting to a place where there's culture shock, you are also leaving small support group systems that you have had in your own country, and you are now going to a new country where everybody minds their business, nobody cares about anybody. And so there is now that part where you suffer from isolation and you suffer from loneliness. And generally there's this thing whereby when you have a very bad expectation or a misplaced expectation, a wrong expectation about something, and you go, the consequential effect. So for instance, now you are saying, by the time I get to Canada, to the US, I'll be so happy, my life will be so perfect. You're thinking about the fairy tale life, in quote and unquote, that you're going to live if you go abroad. But you now go abroad, you now realize that, I am lonely. And that realization came as a shocker to you. It's going to hit you worse. Why? Because you did not prepare your mind against it over time. You didn't prepare your mind that you're going to feel isolated, you're going to feel lonely. In your mind, you're like, it doesn't matter. And then when the reality comes crashing down on you that it matters, you are unprepared to fight against it. Your heart is not guided for that reality. And so the question begs, how do I deal with the loneliness that I face as a Nigerian in the diaspora? And one very important tip I'm going to give, this might even be the most important, is don't fight fire for fire. Now, what do I mean? Some people, when they feel this loneliness, they will try to chest it. But you have to understand something, you're a human being. And one of the most vital aspects of being a human being is that you're a sociable creature, which means that you need support group systems, which means that you need to have a feeling of, I belong here. And one of the very important ways to do that is by finding yourself in groups of people that can relate to who you are and what you're facing. So this means that while you are looking for support groups, you can be smart about how you look for support groups. So for instance, you go to a church where you find familiar faces. So when I say familiar faces, I mean people who basically come from the same place that you come from, as Nigeria, for instance. Find yourselves in places like that. So recently we've had a huge level of migration in Nigerians living to certain cities across different countries like the UK, the US. And so you would find rich Nigerian communities within certain places in these countries. That you would want to locate a church, a very good church, right? Emphasis on good church, that has this community where you would meet people, like you're an Igbo guy, you meet your fellow Igbo brothers in a church, good church, in a church, or in certain diaspora communities and things like that, support groups and things like that. You want to be around people that understand your struggle, understands where you're coming from, basically can identify with your pain points, because that is also their living reality, and it's going to be easier to bond with such people. Now, of course, it might not always be the same as the feeling that you get, right? If it was like your own people from back home, but it still gives you some sort of consolation that, okay, there are people around there who get me totally and who get where I'm coming from. Another thing that really helps is gym and exercise. And this is what I mean. Sometimes when you are falling off the wagon, depression and loneliness and all of these things, you just need to keep engaging your mind with certain activities. So for instance, now, activities like going to the gym is known to battle, high amounts of depression. Okay, why? Because when you're going to the gym, you're keeping yourself fit. There are hormones that are being pumped around your body, feeling good hormones that makes you feel like, okay, I'm getting things done right, keeps you healthy mentally and biologically speaking. And so you find that just going to the gym alone could help a lot with how you are feeling. Another thing that helps is learning how to process your feelings. So if you're in Nigeria, for instance, we can say, oh, therapy is too expensive. You have to spend about 200k on therapy. Not a lot of people have that kind of money in Nigeria, but abroad, I think it's more affordable now. That is relatively affordable. This means that as long as you earn, you work, you earn, you should be able to afford the therapy system. Okay, so this just simply means that learn to talk about your issues, learn to process your emotions. Okay, and when you process your emotions, one thing that processing your emotions does for you is that it gives you clarity on the best way to manage the situation. Talking about it alone helps, but the clarity that it brings you for more proactive solutions, you initiating solutions proactively. When you think about it when you approach life from that scenario, you're solving your issues actively. Okay, so at the end of the day, talk about it. By processing your emotions, you feel better, and then by also gaining the clarity to walk through those solutions and actively apply those solutions into your life. Okay, last but not be the least, readjust your expectations. So it's already a shocker. You've already been hit with the wrong expectation, but now that you are there, just tell yourself, okay, this is my new reality. This is my new reality. This is my new reality. And you would never get the same semblance of what you used to have when it comes to the community, the love, the support, abroad versus, Nigeria. But set your expectations that, okay, this is my new reality. Okay, one thing that will keep you going is purpose. Ask yourself, why am I here again? Why did I feel the need to come here? Answer those questions. Then ask yourself, was it worth it? If the answer is yes, then you're going to get a bit of consolation. See, one thing that makes pain what that is one thing that makes pain what it is. That is one thing that makes going through pain rather what's going through is that you remember the purpose for which you're going through this pain. Right? So for instance, if you're sick, you have malaria, they say that they'll give you like 10 injections. If not, you will die like next 2 days. You take the 10 injections, and when it is paining you, realize, if I don't take this now, I go die in the next 2 days. Oh, purpose born from pain. So you can validate or you can justify your pain because there's a purpose to it, basically. And so if you approach life from that perspective, why did I have to leave the country? Is it still worth it? Are there ways I can manage this thing? If the answer are all yes, if your answers are all yes, then trust me, by reminding yourself about why you came here in the first place and focusing on that rather than your inefficiencies or insufficiencies, you are going to realize that you're going to feel a bit better. So don't change the focus to your pain. Change the focus to the purpose behind the pain, okay? And you're going to feel a whole lot better. And I hope that with all of these tips, I've been able to help you. Now, please subscribe to the Breath of Hope. Why? Because if you don't, and this is probably your first time, you might never see this video again. And if you watch this further, it means that it was really helpful to you. And so to enable the YouTube algorithm say that, oh, I love Victor Akan, I love the Breath of Hope channel, just hit that subscribe button. Of course, you can also add other things that you think would help anyone who suffers from loneliness and depression in the diaspora. And I'll be quick to respond and like your message. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye.